What's going on, everyone? It's Jacqueline here from Nothing But Tech. Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're talking about the Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus. I've been using it for about 7 or 8 weeks now, so I've really gotten to know all the ins and outs of it. I want to give you guys my experience with it, a review of it. There's a lot of stuff on here that I love, and I think it's a really excellent phone, so I want to tell you about it. But before we do that, I want to thank the sponsor of this video. I'm so hyped about this partnership. I've been using Audible, who's sponsoring this video, for years now. I've been using their service, and they're just such an awesome company, and I'm really excited to tell you about it and tell you about the latest book I'm listening to on it. So Audible is a service where you can listen to audiobooks, and they have the largest selection of audiobooks on the planet, so that's pretty epic. And they also have audiobooks that are in a giant range. Like, it's a really wide range of books. So you have books on like self-development and entrepreneurship, but then you also have books on history and romance and sci-fi. Just a ton of options to explore in it, and it's gonna really help you become like a better version of yourself. There's so many like books that can help you improve a certain skill or just look at yourself in a better view. It's a really great service, and there's just a lot of selection. Also, they just came out with this new thing called Audible Originals. So Audible Originals is exclusive audio titles created by celebrated storytellers from worlds as diverse as theater, journalism, literature, and more. And it's all offered on Audible, so it's making the range of books even wider. It's a really great service, and I'm currently listening to Justine's latest book. I know a lot of you guys really like her content as well, and she talks about how she got into YouTube, what YouTube was like 10 years ago when she started, and then also just like her journey as a whole. And what's really cool about this book, and why I think you guys are going to enjoy it, is that it's narrated by her, so you feel like you have a personal connection with her, and it's just a really awesome book. So I'm really digging that one so far. And then there's a ton of other books in entrepreneurship as well that are really great. So if you guys want to try Audible, you definitely should. You can get your first audiobook free plus 2 free Audible originals if you try it for 30 days. So go to audible.com/nothingbuttech or text the code nothingbutTech to 500-500. One more time, that's audible.com/nothingbutTech or text nothingbutTech to 500-500 to get this awesome deal. I'm really excited about it. Thank you to Audible for sponsoring this video. But now let's talk about the Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus, and boy, do I have a lot to say about it. So the Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus, I honestly feel like this is a phone to beat this year. It's got so many things going for it: an epic camera, a great build, an awesome screen, the headphone jack, USB Type-C, an epic battery life. It kind of checks all the boxes that you want in a phone, and it does it while still looking really good. So I'm excited. This video is living with the phone, which makes it sound like it's like a burden or something that you don't want to do, but it's been the opposite of that. I've really enjoyed my time using it. I think it's still going to stay in my pocket as a phone that I'm using every single day. It's not all amazing, but there's a lot going for it here, and I feel like it's kind of the phone that every other phone is going to be measured up against this year. Which is definitely really exciting for Samsung. They did a really good job this year. The strong suit of this device, in my opinion, is the display. So it's rocking this really big display on the S10 Plus, and it has a hole punch. But like Marques Brownlee said, you don't really notice it. It's kind of got this positioning where when you see it in the corner of your screen, Marques actually did this in one of his videos, you kind of just ignore it. Like, you don't really see that it's there, which is really interesting. With a notch, you kind of forget about it as well, but you still can see it, and it kind of infringes on the content. But the placement of the hole punch, especially on the S10 where it's circular, doesn't really get in the way that much. In terms of the display, it has awesome colors. It's really bright. It has really deep blacks as well. It gets even brighter in sunlight now, so it's still even more viewable. And it's one of the best phones for using outdoors. The only drawback with this screen is the edges, in my opinion. It looks really good, and it creates a really immersive experience, but it doesn't have excellent edge detection, so I find that I'm often hitting something that I didn't want to touch, and it brings me to the home screen or to the edge display. Not a major deal, and I think that the fact that it looks so good definitely competes with the bad factors of it, but that's something to note about it. And then the other thing that I've noticed is that it's a little bit harder to find protective cases and screen protectors because of the giant tapering off, so it's really thin on the sides, which feels good in the hand if you're going to go naked and have no case on it. But if you want to get a case, your options are going to be a little bit more limited than like the S10e, which is a flat display, so it's a little bit easier to find accessories. In terms of the screen, it's packing another cool feature this year, which is in-screen fingerprint sensor. But what's really cool about this one is that it's an ultrasonic fingerprint sensor. So what that means is that it uses sound waves to detect your fingers, so it's not only more secure than the stuff that we've seen on other devices like the OnePlus 6T, but it's also going to work when your hands are a little bit wet, and it's going to also just be a little bit more reliable and efficient in terms of unlocking the phone. I've had a pretty good success rate with it. I would say it's around like maybe 85 to 90% of the time it works pretty well. Sometimes I have to hold my finger there a little bit longer than I do in other devices, and I said in the S10e video that I kind of like the placement of that in the old-fashioned fingerprint sensor, but there are some advantages of having it on the front of the phone, and it's a really good one. It's definitely the best in-screen fingerprint sensor that I've used thus far. In terms of the build, as I've already said, it's pretty good build. It's pretty typical Samsung now though, which we've kind of come to expect, the tapering edges on both the front and the back. It's still a glass and metal sandwich. The back is pretty clean with a very minimal camera bump, and it's 3 cameras, more on that later. The phone feels really robust in the hand, and also it has really thin bezels this year, so it's a really big screen, but it doesn't feel that big in the hand, which is kind of nice, and it fits in my pockets, which is kind of an astonishing thing because nothing ever fits in a girl's pockets, so fits there and is pretty good. The S10e has a little bit of a smaller form factor, and I'm mentioning and contrasting the two because I know that that's kind of the pick of if you should go with the S10e or the S10 Plus. The S10e has a little bit more of a comfortable form factor, but the S10 Plus has a far superior screen. Performance on here is A1. It's really, really good. I've been using the phone, as I've already said, for about 2 months, and it's still really fast and smooth. Samsung has definitely toned down the skin again this year, so I'm expecting it to last longer over time. Sometimes with Samsung phones, we find that kind of tapers off, and like 2 years down the line, it's a bit laggy. Software updates have been pretty consistent for me, and I'm also seeing a much more mild skin, which are all good signs. Only time will tell, obviously, but after 2 months, it's still really good. Gaming performance is really good. Multitasking is really good. The massive amounts of RAM on here mean that apps are not refreshing that much. So if you click an app that you haven't used in a while, it's still gonna be on the place that you left it most of the time, which is really nice and something that we don't really see on like devices like the Pixel 3. But I think that the biggest change this year is the camera. So on the back, we're rocking 3 cameras, and what those cameras are is the telephoto, which we've seen, the regular standard with the variable aperture, which is still holding up really well, and then the wide angle. And the wide angle is, so very good. It adds a lot more context. It helps tell a better narrative. LG has been doing it for a really long time, but Samsung honestly has done it a bit better, I would say. Colors are really similar between the normal camera and the wide camera. I did a full camera comparison video of the S10 Plus. If you want to see a ton of samples, I'm going to link that video in the description. And if you want to see the S10 Plus camera compared to any other devices, I know a really popular one right now is Huawei's latest, which has 50 times zoom, which is kind of insane. I haven't gotten my hands on that phone yet, but I think that the S10 Plus has a better overall color science, but I want to test out the Huawei phone before I say that definitively. But it's been a really, really good camera. It's great for landscapes, especially with the new wide angle. My one gripe with it is that the colors when a person is in the shot look a little bit desaturated and purple. When I was comparing photos from this to photos from other phones like the iPhone XS, the iPhone XS made the subjects look a little bit more healthier and tanner. Whereas this definitely washed it out. Another thing to note, and I wouldn't say it's necessarily a bad thing because I know a lot of people like it, but even when you turn beauty mode off, there is a significant amount of skin smoothing, so it's going to look like you applied almost a filter to your photos, and there's going to be a little bit less sharpness on the subject because Samsung is trying to make us all look a little bit prettier. But that's definitely something to note, and I would love to see an option to completely turn that off. And it's the same thing with selfies. They look pretty good, and they get pretty wide now as well. But again, I would love it if they did not smooth the skin as much. Another thing to note is on the S10 Plus, it has 2 sensors on the front, but it's actually only one camera, and the other one is a sensor for depth and stuff like that to get better portrait selfies. But that doesn't mean that you're going to get a much wider camera like we see on some other devices. So overall, the camera's pretty good though. It does really well with landscapes and object photography. It needs a couple improvements with photographing people in terms of skin tone and stuff like that. But overall, it's a really solid experience and a really solid package. And when you combine that with everything else it does really well, it creates a really full smartphone package. The speaker is pretty good. It's not excellent, but it's fine. It still has a headphone jack, which is definitely a huge plus. This is one of the only flagships left on the market that still has that. Has a Bixby button, which can kind of be remapped, but not to the point where you can use Google Assistant. That sucks. I would love to see that improved. And the other thing with the buttons is that they're a little bit too high on the phone, so my thumb rests right below the button for the power button. If it was a little lower, it would be in the perfect position, but ergonomically, I have to always like shimmy up the phone in my hand in order to get to it. And I find that the Bixby button is in like the perfect spot where the volume rocker should be, so I always hit that instead of the volume rockers. Those are some minor things. It's not a huge deal, but it's definitely something to note. The phone also has micro SD card expansion, which is a plus, and it comes in a really high capacity storage model as well. Battery life on here has been really, really good. It's a total powerhouse. I'm getting like 5 hours of screen on time on my use, which is like videos, Instagram, social media in general, responding to emails. A lot of stuff is going on in here, and the performance has been really good. That's on the Snapdragon model, just for some context there, but it's definitely been one of the best performing battery life phones that I've tested in a while, so that's exciting to see. But that's kind of how it is, like overall. It's a really good package. It comes in a bunch of different colors this year as well. This iridescent white one looks really sick, but I'm excited with it. I think that Samsung did a really good job this year in creating a really enticing phone that not only has a great screen and killer looks, but holds up in terms of the specs and also in terms of general performance. So I'm excited with it. It is an expensive phone though. So if you're looking for a more budget-friendly option, you should check out the S10e and my video on it. I'm going to leave that video linked in the description below. The S10e offers a lot of the same stuff that the S10 has, but at a much cheaper price with only a couple drawbacks. I'm excited about the S10 Plus. This also really makes me excited about the new Note phone. I'm getting hyped for that one, but leave a like on this video. Let me know what your thoughts are on the S10 Plus in a comment below. I'm going to catch you guys all in the next video. Bunch of content coming, including studio tours, maybe a car video soon. Really working on that one. So subscribe right here. Check out another video right here, and I'll catch you guys all in the next one. Check out Audible, again, linked in the description. I'll see you guys all later. Thank you for watching. Bye.